Hello friends, today we'll know about the fallopian tube. This is the uterus having a pair of fallopian tubes on either side, and these are the ovaries. So the topic fallopian tube, it can be studied under the following subheadings: definition, situation, dimensions, subdivisions, course and relations, blood supply, lymphatic drainage, nerve supply, and clinical anatomy. So first we'll see the definition. These are the pair of tortuous ducts which conveys the oocyte from the ovary to the uterus. So the ovaries are the pair of female gonads. From these female gonads, female gametes will be released. Those are nothing but oocytes. They pass through this fallopian tube. Spermatozoa, which is passed through this uterus, and then it reaches to the ampulla of the fallopian tube, and there will be the fertilization will occurs. Later on the fertilization, for the implantation, the fertilized zygote will travels towards the fundus of the uterus. So by this we came to know the fertilization will be takes place in the lateral part of the fallopian tube, nothing but ampulla. Situation: it is located in the upper free margin of the broad ligament. This fallopian tube and uterus both are covered by a peritoneal fold that is known as a broad ligament. You can see in this picture, this is from the posterior view. The center brown colored part is the peritoneal fold which covers the uterus and the fallopian tube. But this lateral part of this fallopian tube, it is projected beyond the peritoneal ligament, that is nothing but broad ligament. So this is the broad ligament, which is a peritoneal fold which covers the entire uterus and the fallopian tube. See, this is from the posterior aspect of the uterus. It covers the body and fundus of the uterus, and here it covers the fallopian tube. So the situation is, it is located in the upper free margin of the broad ligament. Dimensions are: length is 10 centimeters. The lateral end of this fallopian tube, which opens into the peritoneal cavity through an opening known as abdominal ostium. The diameter of that abdominal ostium is 3 mm. Now we'll see the subdivisions of this fallopian tube. The parts are: first one, this blue colored part, this is the infundibulum part. Next one is ampulla, and next one is isthmus. Next one is intramural part. Now we'll see the infundibulum part. This infundibulum, it is funnel shape. In the lateral end of this infundibulum, there are number of finger-like projections known as fimbria. Out of this fimbria, one of the fimbria which is long and it is attached to the ovary, tubal pole of the ovary, that is known as ovarian fimbriae. Preceding to this infundibulum, we will see the ampulla. This ampulla forms the lateral two-thirds of the fallopian tube, and approximately the length will be 6 to 7 centimeters, and the diameter is 4 mm. And it is thin, dilated and tortuous, which is related to the upper pole of the ovary. Preceding to this ampulla, we will see the isthmus part. This forms the medial one-third of the fallopian tube and roughly 2 to 3 centimeters in its length, and this is thin cord-like rounded extension. And preceding to this isthmus, we'll see the intramural part or interstitial or intrauterine part. This end will opens at the superior angle of the uterine cavity, and it will passes through the interior of the uterus. The length is 1 centimeter, and it opens into the cavity of the uterus through an uterine ostium. The diameter of that uterine ostium is 1 mm in diameter. So these are the parts of the fallopian tube from lateral to medial. First one is infundibulum, having the fimbriated end, and it is funnel in shape. And next one is thin and dilated tortuous ampulla. Next one is round corded like isthmus. And next one, that is the intramural part or interstitial part. Now we'll see the course and relations. As we see this in the transverse axis, the ampulla, this is the infundibulum part, first one. Next, preceding to the ampulla and the isthmus, both they are located, they are directed posterolaterally in the horizontal axis. And this ampulla, it is related to the upper pole, anterior border, posterior border and medial surface of the ovary. We see the relations. So entire this fallopian tube and this uterus, it is covered by the thin layer of broad ligament. The part of the broad ligament which is located between the mesovarium and the fallopian tube, it is known as the mesosalpinx. So first thing you have to know about what is meant by the mesovarium. You can observe here, this is the broad ligament. So this broad ligament, it is having two layers. Out of this one layer, it is the anterior layer, and this behind one is the posterior layer. So this broad ligament, it encloses the fallopian tube along with the uterus. Here there will be the ovary. The ovary location is exactly inferior and the posterior to the fallopian tube. So in this point you have to know about the mesovarium. Mesovarium is nothing but the ovary which is attached to the posterior layer of the broad ligament. That point we call it as a mesovarium or mesovarium border or anterior border of the ovary. So through that border only it gets its blood supply through that mesovarium or hilum of the ovary. So assume this is the ovary and this is the posterior layer of the broad ligament. So it is attached to the posterior layer of the broad ligament by a short peritoneal fold known as a mesovarium. So the part of the broad ligament which is located between the mesovarium and the fallopian tube, this part it is known as the mesosalpinx, and the rest of the part below the level of this mesovarium, this is known as a mesometrium. And the peritoneal fold which is seen between the infundibulum and this is the ovary, it is having an upper pole here which is enclosed by the fimbriated end. Here there will be the upper pole and this is the lower pole. So the peritoneal fold which extends from the upper pole to the infundibulum, this part of the peritoneum is known as a suspensory ligament of ovary or infundibulopelvic ligament, and this is the lower pole of the ovary. It is attached to the ovarian ligament. So at this point you have to know about the ligaments. So first one is the mesovarium, which is a short peritoneal fold. Through that peritoneal fold, the ovary which is attached to the posterior layer of the broad ligament, and that is nothing but a hilum of the ovary or anterior border. The ligament which is present between the fallopian tube are known as salpinx, and the mesovarium, this part is known as a mesosalpinx. And here this is the mesovarium and this is the mesosalpinx, and the part of the ligament which is seen between the infundibulum and the upper pole of the ovary, this ligament is known as a suspensory ligament of ovary. In this mesosalpinx, you can see the termination of the uterine and ovarian artery. Here this is the ovarian uterine artery, and from here this is the ovarian artery. Here we'll see the termination and anastomosis between the ovarian and the uterine artery in the mesosalpinx. Now we'll see the blood supply. Medial 2/3 of the fallopian tube, it is supplied by the uterine artery. Lateral 1/3 is supplied by the ovarian artery. Here you can observe this is the infundibulum having a fimbriated end, and this is the ovary having the upper pole which is enveloped by this fimbria, and this is the lower pole which is attached to a ligament known as the ligament of ovary, and this is the ligament, suspensory ligament or infundibulopelvic ligament. So this is the ovarian artery which arises below the level of renal artery, and they descend through the posterior abdominal wall and reaches the suspensory ligament. Through that ligament, this ovarian artery will passes and it enters into the mesosalpinx area. Through that area, it enters into the hilum of the ovary, that mesovarium border, and it supplies the ovary. Apart from supplying this ovary, this ovarian artery, it supplies to the lateral 1/3 of the fallopian tube also. Here you can see the arteries to the fallopian tubes are derived from the uterine and both ovarian arteries. The tubal branches pass to the tube between the layers of the mesosalpinx. We see the venous drainage of the fallopian tube. The veins which drains the corresponding arteries, and they form the pampaniform plexus of veins. If you see the lymphatic drainage, the lymphatics from both ovary and the tubal part, this fallopian tube, they drain into the pre-aortic and lateral aortic group of lymph nodes. Nerve supply is by the sympathetic, that is by the T10 to L2 segments of spinal cord, whereas the parasympathetic by the vagus. In that the fallopian tube, the lateral half, it is supplied by the vagus nerve. Medial half is supplied by the S2, S3, S4 nerves. Here in the sympathetic, it induces the movements of peristalsis. In the parasympathetic, there will be the inhibition of the peristaltic movement. Now we'll see the clinical anatomy of the fallopian tube. First one is salpingitis. Inflammation of the fallopian tube, that is known as a salpingitis. Next condition is the sterility. Sterility means inability to have a child. So the sterility, it can be acquired by two conditions. One is congenital and acquired. This is mainly caused due to the tubal blockage, which is seen in congenital or acquired conditions. So to know the patency of the lumen of the fallopian tube, two tests can be done. One is a Rubin's test. In that Rubin's test, the air will be passaged from the uterine cavity, so that air will be blown at the uterine cavity. So this air will enters into the fallopian tube and it leaks into the peritoneal cavity through the abdomen. Test is hysterosalpingogram. In this test, a radio-opaque oil-based dye is passed through this cavity of uterus and slowly it enters into the fallopian tube. So after that, we can take the X-ray. So here you can see the uterine cavity and these are the fallopian tubes. By this we can get an idea whether the lumen it is clear or not. So this kind of X-ray we call it as a hysterosalpingogram. We can study the next one is tubal pregnancy. Usually the fertilization will be takes place at the ampulla region. So this is the fallopian tube. This is the infundibulum and this is the thin dilated ampulla. So the spermatosoma which enters into through the vagina passes through cervix and enters into the body of the uterus and it passes through the fallopian tube and reaches the ampulla. From here, this is the ovary. From here, the oocyte will be released and it enters and it reaches this ampulla, this part ampulla region. So both there will be the fusion of male and female gametes will takes place at this ampulla region and there is a fertilization here. So after the fertilization, the fertilized zygote should travel through the fallopian tube and it enters into the fundus of uterus implanted there. But instead of moving to the fundus of the uterus, the fertilized zygote will show the development in the fallopian tube itself. So there is a chances of rupture of fallopian tube in this case. So this condition is known as a tubal pregnancy. Next one is tubectomy. Tubectomy to make the woman sterile. So these are the some procedures that is known as a tubectomy. In that case, the part of the fragment of fallopian tube was cut here and here you can see a clamp in this case. And here they'll make a knot here and here they pass an IUD devices, intrauterine devices. So these are the some procedures to make the woman sterile for the family planning purpose. So this completes the fallopian tube. Thank you. Now we'll see the topic ovary. Hello friends, in this topic we'll learn about the ovary. The objectives should be covered at the end of the session through these following subheadings. First one is definition, situation, position, external features, relations, blood supply, nerve supply and the clinical anatomy. So first one is a definition. So these ovaries are a pair of female gonads which are located in the ovarian fossa in the lateral pelvic wall. The oocytes which are formed in these ovaries, they pass through the fallopian tube. Situation, this ovaries locates in the ovarian fossa on the lateral pelvic wall. And here this ovary, this is the anterior aspect and this is the posterior aspect. Anteriorly it is related to the obliterated umbilical artery. Posteriorly it is related to internal iliac artery and the ureter. This green colored part is the ureter and this is the internal iliac artery which comes under the posterior relations of the ovary, whereas anteriorly it is related to the obliterated umbilical artery which is the branch of internal iliac artery. Second one, position. In nulliparous woman it is located in the vertical axis, whereas in multiparous women who have given to number of birth, whereas in nulliparous woman, the woman who doesn't give birth at all. In that case of nulliparous woman, the ovary is in vertical axis. So in the vertical axis, this ovary is having upper pole, lower pole, anterior border, posterior border, medial surface, lateral surface. But in this condition, you can see in the horizontal axis, you can see same poles are same, upper pole, lower pole, superior border, inferior border. So in the case of horizontal axis, you can see the superior surface, inferior surface, anterior border, posterior border, upper pole and lower pole. You can observe in this slide, said these are the ovaries. They resemble like a testis only, and they are located in the lateral pelvic wall in the ovarian fossa, and they are related to the inferior and posterior to the fallopian tube. We see the length of the ovary, which is 5 centimeters long, 2.5 centimeters wide and 8 mm thick. The weight of the ovaries is 6 to 8 grams. And if we see the external features, it is having a lateral surface. You can assume that ovary in a vertical axis, so that it is having an upper pole, lower pole, medial surface, lateral surface, anterior border, posterior border. Now first we'll see the peritoneal relations of ovary. Now we'll see the peritoneal relations. So this is the ovary, which is located posterior and inferior to the fallopian tube, and this ovary, it is completely covered by the peritoneum except its anterior border, where this peritoneal fold, it is reflected to the posterior layer of the broad ligament. So in this view, this is the posterior aspect. So here you can closely observe, this is the anterior layer and this layer is the posterior layer of the broad ligament. So this ovary, through its anterior border, where the peritoneum, it is reflected to the posterior layer of the broad ligament. So that is a short layer of peritoneal fold that is known as the mesovarium or anterior border. And I already mentioned you that the peritoneal fold, which is located between the fallopian tube and the mesovarium, that is known as the mesosalpinx, and the part of the broad ligament which is located below the level of mesovarium, that is known as the mesometrium, and the part of the ligament which is seen between the upper pole, here there will be the upper pole and this is the lower pole. This upper pole, it is also known as a tubal pole, which is related to the fallopian tube, and this lower pole, this is known as a uterine pole, which is related to the uterus here. So the part of the broad ligament which is seen between the upper pole and the infundibulum, this is the infundibulum part having a fimbria. So between these two areas, we'll see a short peritoneal fold that is known as the suspensory ligament of ovary or infundibulopelvic ligament. So all these are the peritoneal relations: mesosalpinx, mesometrium, suspensory ligament of ovary, and here you can see the ovarian ligament, and this is the mesometrium. So this is the photograph which are seen from the top view. So here we'll see the upper pole, below we can't see, that is the lower pole, and this is the anterior border. Here there will be the posterior border, and this is the lateral wall, and here this is the medial wall. Now we'll see the relations in this diagram. So anteriorly, this ovary, it is completely covered by the peritoneum. At this point, at the anterior border, this peritoneum which is covering the ovary, it is reflected onto the posterior layer of the broad ligament. This is the broad ligament, this is the anterior layer, and this is the posterior layer. So this short fold of peritoneum, that is known as a mesovarium. Anterior border, it is related to a short fold of peritoneum that is known as the mesovarium. Posterior border, which is convex free, and the upper pole, which is upper pole and nothing but tubal pole, which is related to the fimbriated end of the fallopian tube, and it is related with the ampulla of the fallopian tube. Along with that, this upper pole, we will see a ligament that is known as the suspensory ligament of ovary or infundibulopelvic ligament. Below the ovary, we will see the lower pole or uterine pole. See here, this is the ovary, this is the upper pole which is enveloped by this fimbriated end of this infundibulum, and this upper pole, it is attached to the ligament that is known as suspensory ligament or infundibulopelvic ligament. This is the lower pole which is attached to the ligament of ovary. What you are seeing, this is the lateral surface, and opposite to this is the medial surface. This medial surface which is related to the fallopian tube. Upper pole, it is related to the ampulla. Medial surface is related to this tortuous dilated part ampulla, and this is the posterior border which is also related to this ampulla. Here we'll see the anterior border. This is the anterior border, this is the posterior border, this is the lower pole, so this is the upper pole, and this is the lateral surface opposite to the medial surface. In this diagram you can learn the relations. So here this lateral wall of the ovary, it is related to the ovarian fossa, whereas the medial wall opposite to this surface, it is related to the ampulla of the fallopian tube. Upper pole or nothing but tubal pole, it is related to a ligament, suspensory ligament of ovary, and it is also related to the ovarian fimbriae. Lower pole, which is related to ligament, that is known as a ligament of ovary. And this is the anterior border or nothing but a mesovarian border, which is related to short fold of peritoneum known as a mesovarium. And this is the posterior border, which is convex and free. So here you can learn this thin dilated ampulla, it is related to the anterior border, upper pole, medial surface. Here this is the lateral wall of the ovary where it rests in the ovarian fossa, and it is lined by a parietal peritoneum. This one. This is the anterior border having the mesovarium. Along with that, it is related to the umbilical artery. Through that mesovarium only, ovarian artery reaches the ovary to supply the ovary. And apart from that, it is related to the obliterated umbilical artery in that anterior border. So by this we complete the visceral relations of ovary. Now we'll see the blood supply. It is supplied by the ovarian artery. It arises just below the level of renal arteries. This ovarian artery will descend downwards at the posterior abdominal wall, and slowly it reaches the suspensory ligament of ovary, and it passes through the suspensory ligament of ovary and it reaches the anterior border of the ovary. This is the anterior border, and here this is the posterior border. Through that anterior border, that is known as a mesovarium, there will be the short peritoneal fold. Through that peritoneal fold, they will reaches the ovary. So this is the way it supplies the ovaries. Same as the venous drainage, the parallel veins will drain the particular structure, and they form the pampaniform plexus of veins around the ovary here. And then now we'll see the lymphatic drainage. Same as like a fallopian tube, it also drains into the lateral and pre-aortic group of lymph nodes. So now supplied by the sympathetic T10 and T11, parasympathetic by the S2, S3, S4. Now we'll see the clinical anatomy. In the clinical anatomy, we'll see the ovulation cyst. Here in this case, you can observe these are the cysts seen in the ovary. Mainly these are caused due to there is an impairment in the development of that ovarian follicles in the ovary. If you see the TS of ovary, it is having an outer cortex and inside medulla. In that cortex, number of ovarian follicles will be there. So there will be the different stages of ovarian follicles will be seen at the surface of the ovary. If there is any impairment in the development of that ovary, so they leads to the cyst, which are fluid filled cavities. At this point you have to differentiate. The second condition is carcinoma of the ovary. The 15% of the cases, the secondary carcinoma will be seen for the ovary, whereas 20% of the carcinoma, it is confined to that region only. In the 15% of cases, this carcinoma of ovary, it acquires secondary prolapse of the ovaries. Sometimes there will be the prolapse of the ovaries in the Douglas pouch, nothing but recto-uterine pouch. It is mainly caused due to the anteflexion of the uterus. Next one, endometrial cysts in the ovary. So here, usually uterus, it is inside, it is lined by the endometrium, myometrium and perimetrium. So same like that manner, the tissue which is lining interior of the uterus, like the tissue only, it is seen on the surface of the structures like ovary, fallopian tube and uterus. Same the tissue of that endometrium will be seen overgrowth on its surfaces. So that is known as the endometrial cysts. And the cysts which are seen in that ovary of that endometrial cysts which are seen in that ovary are known as a chocolate cysts. Next condition is accessory ovaries. There will be sometimes number of ovaries will be seen in the region of mesovarium, nothing but anterior border. We can see accessory ovaries. So these are some of the clinical conditions of the ovary. Thank you.